resigned. So yeah, I think Mamedyarov needs to survive this first game. Even a draw is a great result for Mamedyarov in this first one. Just get the black game out of the way, survive, and move on to the next one.
Okay, yeah, so this first game is actually super important. Mamedyarov needs to feel at least inspired after it.
Yeah, it will set the whole mood of the whole tournament, the whole match, because if he loses, he's also must not lose situation. And well, you know, it's very difficult to play chess when your back is right up against the wall. And we see Shak getting ready. He's a very cool customer.
I mean, he looks like the boss,
right? Yeah. I mean, but I really love his style. I love the fire that he brings to the board. And we see Yanchistov develop his King's Knight and now push the Queen's pawn forward.
Yeah, so by transposition, it started as a reti, it's now gone into the Queen's Gambit, and it's the Queen's Gambit accepted, meaning that black did temporarily go a pawn up, but that gambited pawn has now been recovered, and still a very typical type of position. This is mainline theory. If you've ever looked at the Queen's Gambit accepted, you will have seen this position. Black's whole idea is to push pawns on this left side. White's bishop has been kicked back, and black's light square bishop, normally the problem piece, is now quite a good one. And there's been a lot of debate about this position in recent times, Ivanka.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can see many games on the database, and I'm just going to have a look at which one is the most popular move. It's actually popular for white just to develop the Queen's Knight, just to put it in front of the Queen and just continue development. I have to say one thing about this position. It's actually very difficult for black to win this. It's a very solid choice from Mamedyarov.
Yep. And as we mentioned, solid maybe is not the worst thing in the first game, at least. With black, to survive is the goal. So Mamedyarov has clearly prepared this.
Do you want to hear the stats, though?
OK, hit me with those stats.
42% victory for white, 40% victory for black, and 18% victory. Sorry, 40% victory is a draw. What am I saying? 40% is just draw, 18%
for black.
For black.
Wow, OK, so white has a very good score, actually.
Yeah, very good score. Okay. And, OK, what did he choose? OK, he picked up his A-pawn and challenged black's pawns there on the left. And this one doesn't have as good a win rate for white, only 34%.
Okay.
And 25% for black.
OK, so reasons to be optimistic for Mamedyarov. Maybe the first small surprise of the game, white pushing this pawn, but it's quite logical.
It is.
It's quite typical in these ideas. Black had some strong pawns over there on the left side, so you loosen them up. And now white's knight is running forward, and it's got a nice outpost. White's knight is heading towards c4, where it can no longer be challenged. And first, I expect Duda to maybe bring his rook into the game. That rook in the corner. There we go. Just activating all the pieces. There's no calculation to be done, nothing really to work out in this position, just general principles, improve your worst placed piece. White's queen maybe could be improved in the next 3 or 4 moves. White's other rook needs to get into the game somehow. But first, maybe that white knight is coming forward.
Yep, I agree. I think a knight will definitely come forward. I wonder whether... I mean, yesterday we saw the knight come into the centre quite often. Do you think it will happen again?
Yeah, we saw that in both games from Duda, right? Both games, Duda landed with a knight on e5 on this square in the middle of the board. And it was powerful both times. He had quite a consistent run of luck with that idea. And will he play it again? I'm more expecting the other knight to move first. Yep, there we go. So this is the c4 square that we mentioned earlier. Can never really be challenged by a pawn. The only way you can ever trade off this piece is with your own knight. So we might see that one from black later, but first, Mamedyarov, he can't delay it too much longer. He needs to castle his king. And once he does, let's assume he does it now, after a little bit of thinking, then it will be time for Duda to decide, how do you get this rook in the game? Maybe you lift your queen up somewhere, maybe you move the queen, you shift the rook across at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to his tried and trusted method of dropping the other knight into the centre. For example, now black probably, OK, it does happen, probably doesn't want to take, I was going to say, because white's pawn could capture, and suddenly this attack in the knight, and white has a launch pad on the d6 square supported by white's pawn. Looks pretty nice for white, so black doesn't really want to release the tension yet.
Yeah, I mean, this is very well known, and actually the most popular move by a long shot is to capture the pawn in the middle.
Yeah. So first you take a pawn, and only when the and it has happened. Only when white recaptures with the bishop or with the queen, then maybe you trade off a set of knights, and things are getting hoovered off the board. It's just about whether long-term, the pawn structure, for example, on the left side of the board, whether this is a bit loose for black. These two pawns are potentially weak. For example, this white bishop, kind of long-term, wants to eye up this pawn. For black, meanwhile, the big advantage in this type of position is that the knight sometimes has access to this square because you have pushed your pawn forward quite far. So it's just small strategic things here. But it's a very cagey battle, and I'm surprised Duda's thinking, because, yeah, again, this is quite a typical type of position. You can predict this pretty much if your opponent plays this opening. But, OK, both players have been very quick up to this point.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just going to ask, do you think Duda is surprised by Shak's opening choice, that he's chosen such a solid variation, or was he expecting something a bit more cutthroat?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess Shak hinted yesterday in one of the games that he was going down the Queen's Gambit accepted. If you remember the Reti opening yesterday, he took a pawn on c4 very quickly. So he's kind of hinting that he was preparing this opening. But yeah, for the match situation, for the match itself, it's a questionable choice. I guess Shak, he just wants to survive this one, and then maybe game 3, when he has his next black, then he'll know whether he needs to win or needs to take more risks, and then he'll choose a different one. His black opening from game 4 yesterday was a bit of a disaster in the end. So this one, more solid.
We are obviously aware of the chess world talking about Hans Niemann's recent lawsuit. And I just wanted to say one thing about it. So since Play Magnus Group is included in the complaint, we will not talk about this at the current time. And today in the studio, we'll only focus on the big final in Aimchess Rapid. And what do you think right now, David? Will this game end up with a winner or a draw?
It's hard to say. Early days, I'm going to say it's going to be decisive, just because it's these two players. They're both really ambitious. I'm going to pick white slightly because I've looked at these types of positions before, and black has to be quite careful. Black has to be accurate in order to fully equalize. At the moment, black is still fighting for that equality. How about you, Ivanka? Any predictions? You think draw?
Draw. It's in the middle, 50%.
Attention.
Yeah, exactly. And, well, we do have a competition where we're asking you guys to show us your best chess meme for a chance to win a mug with David's mug on it. And Tapes New Bane says that they have showed us a meme and says that that's literally me. Don't know if this is the best. Here we go. You can see. Top players when they are down a pawn. Me when I'm down. Hang on, I'll read it here. Me who is the queen and a rook down. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. And there we see the knights leave the board, getting one step closer to the tension going. And Dennis M. Forster also shared with us a meme. Let's see if we can bring it up.
We see a confident Ergaisi there.
Yeah, this one's a classic.
Oh, yeah, we love it.
A moment of tension in the Vatican. If the bishop moves forward, the queen can take him. That one was doing the rounds last year. It was such a good one.
Yeah.
So keep them coming. Remember, you can tweet us your memes using the hashtag #ChessChamps.
Funny. I like that picture with the queen.
Yeah, and meanwhile, that knight trade has happened. Duda takes back with a bishop. I vaguely remember, this is maybe 6 months ago, I was looking at this position from the white side, and I remember thinking that the white queen taking that pawn was the acid test of black's opening. But taking back with a bishop also looks very healthy. White's bishop now controls a lot of squares. It needs to be traded off at some point. Mamedyarov needs to neutralize the strength of white's knight and white's bishop next to it. Those two pieces in the center of the board do control, do dominate proceedings at the moment. But it is black's move, so he has a bit of time, no direct threats on the board. Mamedyarov, yeah, it feels like he's impatient to kind of make his comeback. Yeah. He's just playing so quickly. Move 16, and only now is he ticking under 15 minutes. Great preparation, but also just confident, I guess.
Yeah, definitely confident. And now he's taking a pause. Still a little bit baffling, actually, because we're still in the realms of theory. position has been played many times. Most of the moves that black plays are simply improving moves. So the knight will jump forward to c5, a black pawn will come and protect the b4 pawn, and finally another one is actually to centralize the light squared bishop. So these moves don't have any specific plan, they're just simply improving, maximizing the potential of the black pieces.
Yeah, this one looks nice and healthy. Later you can hint, I don't think you want to rush, but you can hint that you might take this knight at some point because this is a very strong piece, as we mentioned. I like this one as well, just fixing your pawns, kind of defending them as a pair here. They defend each other. The only downside is that the black queen has to stay kind of defending this pawn because white's knight is also attacking it at some point. And the other move also, maybe the most natural move, I guess, bringing the black knight forward. Normally they say knights before bishops, so the knights lead from the front. Okay, he chooses the other method you mentioned there, Jovanka, bring the bishop to the center. We could see, for example, if white plays a quiet move, black go for symmetry. So here we see black's knight spring forward, and these four pieces, they're just all equally strong. And they can trade off for each other, but that would only lead towards a draw. So, yeah, in the current position, it looks like Mamedyarov has found a nice way with his bishop in the center of the board to lock things up.
Yeah. And again, this has been played before. I have to say, this bishop centralizing itself wasn't the most popular move, just primarily because it's not the most natural. And here, white has played two options. One of them is very intriguing, actually. It's actually to step forward with the A pawn and just fix black's pawn on a6 and make it a permanent liability.
And this looks like a pawn sacrifice initially, but I don't think it is. After bishop takes knight, we would see an exchange. Black's queen can now suddenly swoop out and capture this pawn. It's no longer defended, but at the end we would see, actually there's a couple of tactics here. For example, white's rook, if it wants to, if you want to keep things simple, could just swing across, hitting the black queen, but also picking up the black pawn behind it once the queen moves. There are also tricks in this position, for example, by looking at loose pieces. This knight is undefended. You could consider maybe jumping out the way with the white bishop, going to capture a pawn, and when black recaptures with the king, queen takes knight. That was a loose piece. You've regained your pawn as white, and black's king is out in the open. So yeah, I really like this move, Jovanka, that you pointed out, just pushing this pawn forward. And if black doesn't go for that kind of that continuation that we just showed, then this pawn clamps down. It supports maybe an invasion on this square. So, for example, the white knight or white bishop could use this square. That's a Duda type of move.
It is a Duda. We actually saw Duda do that.
Oh, in game 2 yesterday.
Game 2. Oh. I was suddenly just taken aback by my Duda do that. So it was a bit of a mouthful. Yeah, this pawn push, he played something very similar yesterday. Yeah, he did.
Will he do it again?
I think so. And maybe this could be that small inaccuracy that I'm talking about. Maybe he should have, Mamedyarov should have taken the time out to prevent white from advancing this A pawn. And yeah, that's perhaps why the bar is slightly in white's favour.
So would that be the most ambitious move by Duda right now?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Maybe some small risk involved if you push your pawn into black's half of the board because it becomes more vulnerable than it is right now. White's pawns on the left side, they protect each other, they're very safe. But if you want to be ambitious, fix your opponent's weaknesses, stop your opponent's pawns from connecting with each other, then yeah, you play that move. And only then do you start to maybe formulate a longer-term plan. Duda spending 3 minutes now. It's hard to see what else for white, to be honest. White's queen could step up, I guess, just to bring the other white rook next to the, sorry, this side, next to the white king. That needs to be improved, but that would be very slow. Yeah, push that pawn. I think at least that would ask questions of Mamedyarov.
He doesn't.
He moves his queen.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting this one, and I think the database is going to tell me it's a novelty. No one has played this queen move. They'd actually stepped up the queen one square forward. Here, she's at her maximum potential, but I think perhaps Shakhriyar should take the opportunity and step up his A-pawn, prevent white from clamping down.
That would make a lot of sense. Also, this white queen's slightly vulnerable. The black knight could go and attack her. So yeah, I'm also slightly baffled by this choice of square by Duda. There's some logic behind it. White's other rook now on the f-file wants to swing across behind that white queen. So yeah, there is a plan, but not the most natural from Duda. And Mamedyarov has now paused. Often if your opponent plays an unnatural move, right, it's just human instinct to be like, what's that? And try to reformulate your plans.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you always do that. I mean, even if your opponent plays the most terrible move, I mean, most people's reaction is always just to take a step back and go, hang on a second. I thought this was not possible because of this. And then, you know, once you gather your thoughts, you gather your emotions, then you play your move. Actually, it's very good advice always to pause, even if the move you're going to play is very obvious. Because then you just have a quick scan, you look at the alternatives, and you know, they have this old maxim, which is like, when you see a good move, stop and look for a better one.
Okay.
And that's, it's very basic, but it's very much worth your while.
Yeah, I call it a blunder check. Just in case you're accidentally putting a piece on a bad square or dropping a piece on the other side of the board, just scan, 10-second scan. Okay, my pieces are safe, they won't fall off the board. And then you can move.
So how does that work in practice? So to do that 10-second scan, the move you want to make, you make it in your head and just double check that, okay, with this piece here, my king isn't in danger, my pieces can't be taken. Is that the scan you make?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, there are different levels you can go to. Often I'm just like, okay, did my opponent have a threat? No, I don't think he did. And then I can play my plan. Okay, the opponent has a threat now on the board. Mamedyarov attacking the white queen with black's knight. Duda has two options. He's either got to retreat that white queen off to the left somewhere, just step her back a square or two, or Duda can remove this knight from the board. He can capture this knight. Normally, you don't want to part with your bishops. Bishops are fantastic pieces because the center of the board is quite open. It's not locked down with pawns. And white's dark square bishop in the center looks fantastic. So I'd be reluctant to trade it off, but...
Yeah, don't trade it off.
That would be a safe option, I guess.
Again, if you paid me, I would never, ever trade off that beautiful dark square bishop for that knight.
Yeah,
it's not worth it.
I agree. I would be very reluctant. But Duda's pausing, which makes me think he's going to do it. Normally when Duda stops... Okay,
no. Here, retreat the queen. You know, move her away. I mean, lots of people will be asking us, you know, but why did Duda put the queen on such a weird square? You know, on the first row.
Yeah, and that would be a good question. The thing is, queens, just like bishops, they are long-range pieces. So actually, they do a good job supporting the army from behind. They're like those archers. In war, you don't want to use your archers at the front because you need to give them range. You need to keep them safe as well. And they can hit their targets from any distance. And queens are actually completely fine. You just need to keep them safe for the end game. You only want to put queens in the middle of the board when there's virtually no pieces left. So white's queen, just tuck her away. You often see this, queens just staying at the back with their rooks. It's the knights and bishops that go first. To fight hand-to-hand in combat. Yeah,
like you say, they're long-range pieces. They can do their work from the first row. And whilst the players are thinking, I would like to share with you a meme from Craig E, who says, I feel this meme on a personal level. There's me as Hikaru, blundering my queen in the opening. We've all been there, we've all done it. And there's my opponent using half his time trying to figure out the gambit. And this picture is a classic because, you know, Levon Aronian is playing, but he was playing our very own David Howell. And he too sacrificed, was it a piece?
Yeah, knight. Yeah. And it didn't work. So I just took the knights and I won the game. And yeah, I felt guilty, but Hikaru was just staring down Levon the whole game, being like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?
That's true. I've seen video from that because you were commentating with Simon.
I was commenting with Simon, and we were just like, what is going on? And Hikaru also was like, I don't understand. And then he kept going, I don't understand. And Levon just looked like the most confident person ever. And he was even stretching his thing. And we were like, no, we don't see it. And,
but did it bother him to have, has he said afterwards, Levon?
He didn't say anything about Hikaru, no. I'm not sure whether he was aware. Levon was still focused on the board. Actually, at some point, I had to just put my hands over my head because I could keep seeing.
So he was bothering you a little bit.
Yeah, and then I was trying not to laugh, so I had to go and walk around and leave the board for a second because Hikaru was just. But at that point, it was already clear I was winning, so it wasn't kind of distracting or it wasn't giving hints or anything. But, yeah, that's a memeable moment.
Oh, nice. Beating Levon Aronian.
Yeah,
Incredible,
my best
David.
games, I've got to say.
Yeah.
Wow.
Your Caro-Kann, your beloved Caro-Kann.
It was in my Caro-Kann. Yeah, I was very happy. And it was the final round in Gibraltar.
Yeah, I woke up 10 minutes before the game. I was like, oh my God, I'm late. It's a 10-minute walk to the tournament hall from the hotel. And I was like, oh, what opening am I going to play? And in my head, I was like, OK, toss a coin, basically. And Caro-Kann, it worked.
Toss a coin?
I mean, I didn't physically, but in my head, I was like, OK, eeny, meeny.
Yeah.
E5 or C6 on move 1. And luckily, I chose the Caro-Kann.
Yeah.
And, OK, meanwhile, Black's knight comes into the centre of the board. And hinting that it might jump even further in. I'm not sure whether there's a threat on the board. Maybe there is, Jovanka.
Maybe there is, yeah. Maybe he's planning a deep, cunning threat of actually trading off dark-squared bishops, and or maybe trading off the bishop for the knight.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, if white takes time out and just pushes a pawn, giving some space to the white king, then, like you said, bishop takes knight, bishop takes this knight. The whole idea is that, OK, there's a threat on this bishop, so you have to recapture. And Black's knight would jump in with a double attack, a fork. And Black would win material. So this Black knight is a bit of a nuisance, having jumped in. It can't quite access this square. This is the dream for Black. If you can maybe trade off White's dark squared bishop later on, this is the dream outpost on c3, supported and anchored by this pawn. But, OK, how does White deal with that threat while also trying to kick the knight out? The first move that comes to mind would be, for example, centralizing this white rook. This was White's worst piece. You don't allow any forks right now. You're opposite the Black queen as well. But maybe Mamedyarov, he's just going to ignore this. He's going to say, OK, now I trade off your dark squared bishop. And once that happens, for example, let's say White helps out and trades those pieces off on Black's terms. Suddenly, the knight is coming in with a fork anyway. And we might see this on the in the game. White's rook did slide across. And he really cannot allow this knight in, Duda. If he does, it's going to be a disaster for White. Again, for example, just to show a fork. And even if Black wasn't winning material, this knight is worth a whole piece. It's so strong. And he's going for this strategy. Mamedyarov, OK, he's trying to trade off this dark square bishop so the Black knight has access. What do you think? It's... Yeah. Oh, wow. The evaluation bar really shifting. Is there something wrong tactically with this move? Strategically, we've explained it's very sensible, very logical. We can understand why Mamedyarov went for it. But what could be the downside? Is it
just attacking the knight?
Yeah, you're right, Jovanka. So White has 2 moves to get an advantage. Anything else, Black has the advantage. But both of the moves, they're the same topic, the same theme, attacking this knight. As we mentioned, you can't let it in. So White's best move, actually, it's very logical when you think about it, is to attack it. The best move is actually to attack with the bishop from this angle. Second best move is to attack the knight from this angle with the bishop. Both of them similar, actually. So, for example, if you move your bishop into the centre...
He finds it.
He finds the best move.
Of course. He's a player on form, isn't he?
He's banging form, Duda. So accurate. And, yeah, he's attacking this knight. For example, bishop takes bishop now. This bishop would not be recaptured. There's no time. You have to get rid of the Black knight first. So you take with the knight. You take it with your bishop. And suddenly Black has actually serious problems. Too many pieces in this d-file. The 2 bishops, for example, again, if there's another trade, this is a deadly pin. And Black would lose his bishop or his queen behind. Yeah, this really nice move there from Duda. I think Mamedyarov, he underestimated this idea, to be honest. He was too focused on his own plans and forgot that White has something to say about it.
Yeah, I can't blame him, actually, because I was also following the same path that Mamedyarov was thinking. I was just thinking, yeah, trade off the bishops, enjoy active pieces. And instead, there was so much danger in the position. And of course, it makes sense when you think about it. The white rook stands opposite the Black queen.
Yeah. Tactics always work in your favour in that scenario, right? Queens, they never feel more uncomfortable than when they're stared down by a rook. So, yeah, you're right, Jovanka. Actually, the ingredients are here for tactics to work in White's favour. Also, if you count the pieces that are in the game, pretty much all the pieces are in the game, apart from black's rook next to his king. So black is playing without a piece right now, and therefore the 2 white rooks in the center, they're making things work.
Wow, do you think Mamedyarov now is aware that he's in trouble?
Yes. Change in body language.
Yeah, the penny has dropped. He knows. It's very, very much apparent, you know, the head in his hands. He's thinking now, and now he has to just play out of his skin in order to save this position and equalize.
Yeah, how do you pull the brakes, though? How do you go solid suddenly for black? I don't really see. Maybe you have to move the black knight, but where to? You can't allow that knight to be captured. The problem is black can jump into the position. We mentioned that c3 square earlier, but then it will just be captured. White's dark square bishop still lives. There's that tension on the d-file again. It just looks almost decisive. The more we look at it, the more, or at least the more I look at it, the more I think it's just very strong for Duda. And Mamedyarov, he seems to be thinking the same. He's burning 2.5 minutes now on his clock. He had a big time advantage. That's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really suggest anything other than the knight springing forward and just accepting that you're probably going to be a pawn down.
And maybe we can see the stockfish moves. Earlier we saw white had 2 good moves. Okay, black, actually the advantage is going to grow if he doesn't find the best move here, and that's to retreat the knight. This is far from obvious. Actually, like you said, Ivanka, it's giving up a pawn, essentially. And let's show this on the board. Black has to give up a pawn here by retreating his knight. Everything else, for example, trading the dark-squared bishops, this is the second best move, but that would be great for white. Jumping in with the black knight is maybe the most natural, the third best move, but white just eliminates this piece. And, for example, now would push forward with a pawn in the center, and due to this pin, the black bishop is lost in the center. So I think he will rule that one out, but the best move, if we go back to it, is to drop back knight to g5, the computer says. Hitting this bishop, very logical, but the problem is after bishop takes bishop, I think we have to recapture with the pawn. Another trade, hitting the black queen. You want to take with the black queen, you don't take back with a pawn ever. You shatter your pawn structure in front of your king, too ugly. So you take with the queen, and now white just wins a pawn in the center. Rook takes pawn, so a little bit of calculation. It's like capture, 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 but white wins a pawn at the end. And they will both have worked this one out already.
Wow, trouble for Mamedyarov. He is now down to 4 minutes.
Oh, and he's gone forward with his knight.
Yeah, this looks like a piece sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Because the knight can just be captured and... Oh, sorry, my arrows. The knight can be captured this way. And it has been captured. And what's to stop Duda winning a piece now? Pushing forward in the center. This bishop is pinned, it can't move.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to understand. Maybe there's some trick here to do with how strong this black pawn is, but...
No, I don't think so.
I don't see it. Duda plays this move. Okay, he gives up his queen, Mamedyarov. Bishop takes knight. He's just giving up his queen for the white rook. That queen has disappeared. And in this position, Duda, once he recaptures this bishop, I think he will immediately, he's simply a queen for a rook up. This one is winning, surely. Black's saving grace is that this pawn is really, really strong, supported by black's bishop, but a queen for rook is too much.
It is too much.
He's done it before, though.
He's done it before. At least in the past, when Mamedyarov has sacrificed queens, normally there's an immediate compensation, there's an immediate reason, but here he's half bluffing, I think. The black rook moves across, attacking the white queen. At least she's not great right now, she's not active.
And in fact, if she steps to the wrong square, she's going to get trapped.
You're right, Ivanka. If she gets to this square, she's trapped in 2 different ways.
Yep.
You can bring the black rook down, and no escape squares for her.
So that means you have to put the queen on the edge of the board. It's only 1 square.
So, yeah, one of these 2 squares. Whoops.
Yeah. I would not put her in the eye line of the dark square bishop, so I would step forward to the A2.
Yeah, this one looks a bit scary to allow the bishop to stare down at you. So, yeah, I agree, Ivanka. This one looks most sensible. But suddenly the black rooks are coming in. This is one attack on the white queen. She has to step forward, I guess. And maybe the other rook could jump in at some point. OK, he does go into the corner. Maybe he was too scared of the rooks on the double, on the second rank. And suddenly he's playing with fire, Duda. And, OK, we see the stockfish suggestions again. still good for white. But he's fighting Mamedyarov. This is the type of advantage that could disappear if black's pawn can somehow trick its way forward. I don't think it's safe yet. You don't want to push this pawn because this attack on the white queen can maybe just be blocked by white's pawn. Also, maybe, yeah, I mean, I guess you step for the pawn forward and next move, this guy drops off. So keep that pawn on the board. And the computer says in this position, you want to stop this idea of pushing forward by blocking it with your bishop. Just block this pawn. And the bishop actually controls a lot of squares. That's not obvious, I've got to say. It feels like a position you've sacrificed your queen. You've got to play fast. You've got to find something immediate. But the computer says, just play slowly. It's fine. You're a queen down. The game goes on. But wow. The second best move, also a quiet one. I guess it's just to move the rook across and go for this, this isolated pawn.
So both players are now just staring at this black pawn.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the center of their focus right now. For Mamedyarov to keep it on the board and for Duda to get it off the board.
Yeah, Duda would love to even sacrifice a rook in order to get rid of it later on. As long as he can get maybe, let's give both sides a couple of moves just to show an example. But if, say, he gets the opportunity, maybe not here, but rook takes pawn, this would be the dream, getting rid of the pawn and black's bishop for the rook, and white would emerge with an extra bishop. So, OK, this was prevented, but this is not a recommended move by the computer. Black's rook came in. To me, it's the most natural, actually, bringing the black rook in, but what's the downside to this one? The black rook looks nice and active. Maybe there's just no threat. What can white do now? Computer goes to +4? Wow.
I don't understand this because to me it looks it can't be a bad move. You know, black is threatening to push the c pawn one square forward, and goodness me, that's terrifying. And oh.
Wow, he pushes forward Duda, giving away a pawn for free, seemingly. The pawn is gobbled up. What's the idea?
Plan?
I guess he's freed up the bishop on this nice long diagonal, but I don't see the plan.
Is he going to also push his c pawn? Say, you got a pass pawn, I want one too.
Yeah, a battle of the c pawns. It's weird to have pawns this way round. Normally, black's pawn would be blocking the white pawn. Neither pawn is blocking the other here.
Or maybe he just wants to free up his bishop defensively.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to free up this piece, like you said, Ivanka. Now he has access to this diagonal at least. But the computer did not like it. It didn't approve of giving up a pawn for free. Still a queen for rook advantage, but the white queen is pretty bad right now. I mean, I would be terrified, I've got to say, of the white king on the back rank. I would want to step forward a pawn at some point. I'm not sure whether I have time, but just want to give it some breathing space, an escape square. I'm not sure whether that's a good move. Like you said, Ivanka, maybe this one, pushing forward.
Shall we have a look at if you can take a breather? If you push the pawn?
You push the pawn.
I mean, is the black pawn also going to advance? I mean, because this position looks so dangerous despite the bar being all the way on white's side. I mean, this is just not how it works when chess is played out amongst humans.
Yeah. If it was computer versus computer, you're right, it's just a win for white, essentially. But human versus human, you get scared of this pawn stepping forward, you get scared of it promoting, maybe you accidentally get your king trapped on the back rank. Actually, the more I look at it, the more I think Shak is just... I mean, we knew this already, he's a genius, but he's found a really nice practical way to continue. It was either this or suffer, right? Suffer a pawn down position with no chance of winning. This one, he's either losing or he might turn it around and win.
I agree. This is the way to defend against those unpleasant positions. You've got to create mess. You've got to be that agent of chaos. And I like what he's doing. And when it comes to the clock times, well, Aimchess Duda just under 3 minutes.
He spent nearly half his time on this one move, and understandably. That might be the worst queen I've ever seen, I've got to say. So white is a queen for rook up, and all queens are good pieces, but white's queen, what is it doing in the corner, blocked in by black's rook?
That's true.
So that is the compensation. That's why it's tricky for white. If you could pick up the queen and put her on an active square, then probably just game over. But OK, he is activating that piece. And now, again, the question, Ivanka, can that black pawn push? Can it continue its march?
Now it's much more tempting, especially because the white king doesn't have a hidey hole to escape to.
The evaluation bar dropping every move now. This is how difficult it is to handle for white. And you said this pawn push is tempting. What else could black consider here? Maybe you could move the black bishop. I mean, this move is the first move you want to play, right? Push this pawn. And as you mentioned, if white does now make space, then suddenly the black rook comes forward. It's pinning. It's about to remove the defender, the blockader, this white rook. Maybe this is winning for black suddenly, because, for example, if you step your king forward, the black bishop comes in. Oh, it's still tricky. There's still some tactics here, but if you can remove this blockader, you make a new queen with your pawn. I mean, this is the ambitious way, right? The acid test of what white is doing. Critical idea, but does it work? If you can't make it work, if you're too nervous, maybe you bring your bishop forward and try to go for this pawn. I don't think black has time to make a space for his king himself. He would love to.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because.
Because black is vulnerable on the back rank as well. The black king is trapped behind its own pawns.
And you have to remember, yes, the queen is badly placed for the time being, but she can swoop in, especially to the e7 square, and just make a real nuisance of herself. So still, white has their defensive resources.
Yeah, I mean, still anyone's game. Who would you pick here, Jovanka, if you didn't see the evaluation bar?
Oh, that's such a tough question. I probably would choose the queen, but I would make sure I spent so much time on every move, you know, just checking and rechecking all my variations, because the margin of error here is so small. You make a mistake, you're going to pay with it with your life.
Yeah. I guess the reason we would choose the queen is that at least worst comes to worst. That black pawn runs through, you give up your rook for it, and you'll get a situation where it's queen versus two rooks. Roughly balanced, maybe slightly better for the two rooks. But that's like worst case scenario. If you're black, worst case scenario is your pawn drops off and you're just a queen down. So margin for error tiny, like you said, Jovanka, but maybe the margin is smaller for black. Mamedyarov under 1 minute. We said they were quick players. There are only 27 moves. OK, he does take a timeout to create luft, create air for the black king.
This probably allows the white king to also do the same, you know, because if you feel then his nervousness there with no way to escape to.
Yeah, copy.
Yeah,
copycat chess.
Absolutely.
Push a pawn in front of the white king, just like black did there. I'm not sure who it benefits more, but it benefits both. Just not sure who it benefits more.
Yeah.
Wow, what a game. So many surprises. We barely predicted that middle bit where black gave up a piece, then gave up a queen.
But, you know, the action happened very early on, and, you know, it's still critical around move 27.
You're right, Jovanka. You said it yesterday. Between move 20 and 40, that's where the action happens between these two. I mean, you see some grandmasters where the action only happens like move 50, 60 in some endgame. You see some where it happens only between move 10 and 20. Here it's middle game.
Yeah.
Both of them so creative. And Duda tanking now on the clock.
Well, he doesn't have too much time on his clock either. He's ticking down to just over a minute. And the heat is on for both of these players. It's another roller coaster game.
Fantastic. What a start to the final day. Obviously, Mamedyarov, he is fighting for a comeback. It's not looking good for him right now. And if he loses this game, it's getting really dramatic. Then he will have to win 2 games and only 3 rapid games to go. I mean, I see the bar, so I understand it's most likely that Duda will win this game, but all scenarios still possible?
Definitely.
As long as that black pawn exists, as long as it lives. And like Jovanka said, just one slip and we'll see the bar swing the whole way to black side. And Duda was frustrated. OK, he does eventually copy black, creating some air for the white king. But that's the one risk is look at this, the evaluation bar now on black side.
Whoa!
Yeah. And, well, this is the type of position where anything can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, such a natural move. I mean, really? Why does the bar not like it?
There must be something concrete for black. Maybe it's bringing in this second rook. Again, that's what we call the blind pigs. They'll just eat anything in their path. On that second rank, the white pawns are just doomed. They're going to drop off. But the question for Duda is, can he eliminate this pawn? We said this was the key. I don't think black should get greedy now and capture this white rook.
I think black can force a draw here by attacking the queen.
attacking the white queen.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
that's
keep...
very clever, yeah, Jovanka. Let's show this on the board. It's getting really tense. Mamedyarov under 20 seconds. And you can attack the white queen. You don't want to take this rook first. If you take this rook, you lose your bishop, and black's bishop is the key. Here, a queen and bishop together will beat 2 rooks. Essentially, you're a piece up. A queen is the same as 2 rooks. White has a bishop for free, and he goes for your idea, Jovanka. He doesn't take this rook. He wants to kick away the protection of this rook first. So the rook bullies the queen. If it moves to this square, actually, then you can move across this way, and she's almost trapped. She has to go the whole way back, and then the rook drops next to her. Wow, things are turning in black's favour. Duda goes the other way. He steps 1 square forward, and black's bishop comes in. Is Mamedyarov going to checkmate Duda?
Whoa!
Yeah, it's looking that way, David.
Yeah, suddenly the white king has been abandoned. White's queen and rook are too far away, and the f2 point is always the weakest in white's camp. In any chess position, especially here, it's going to get captured. Black is going to be attacking with a bishop and with 2 rooks. Suddenly, how does white even do anything? White's queen can't even counterattack. There's 1 check, but look how safe black's king is. No more checks ever. Black's king is super safe. OK, he pushes a pawn forward, but suddenly something is about to drop on this square. Oh, it looks... OK, black is winning. Wow, you take it with the bishop. This is winning because if the king steps forward, the bishop drops back with a discover check, winning the queen at the same time. Let's go back to the players. Mamedyarov is going to take this game.
What a turnaround.
He just needs to give another check. Duda smiling. He was a queen up, and he's lost it. And we'll see this... OK, white's other rook has gone. And next move, wherever the king goes, black's rook is going to jump out the way with a check. Black's bishop will capture the white queen. Game over.
Oh.